Welcome back to the Unhinged Marriage Podcast with your host, Jenny, and her co-host, this dude.
Zimmy, baby, let's go.
And as you can tell, we are in onesies today. So I am a shark, and he is.
I am a penguin, look like a panda, but I'm a penguin.
Yeah, he's got the best of both worlds over there. So on today's episode, we are going to answer some questions based on our childhood, which is going to be a very interesting podcast, I would say, because we grew up completely different.
So stay tuned. You guys do not want to miss this episode. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Unhinged Marriage Podcast with your host, Jenny, and her co-host, this dude.
Zimmy, baby, let's go.
And as you can tell, we are in onesies today. So I am a shark, and he is.
I am a penguin, look like a panda, but I'm a penguin.
Yeah, he's got the best of both worlds over there. So on today's episode, we are going to answer some questions based on our childhood, which is going to be a very interesting podcast, I would say, because we grew up completely different. All right, so childhood, how does it affect your relationship and or marriage? For us, the reason why we wanted to talk about this is because I am a child of divorce, and his parents have been together for 20 plus years, and that really helped us navigate our relationship, our childhood traumas, and it really showed what we want to do in our future with our future children. And so with these questions, we're going to answer them based on our experiences, how we grew up, and how we overcame a lot of, the differences that we realized came from our childhood. So let's start with the first question.
Yeah, so the first question on the list that we have is, what was your relationship like with your parents growing up? That's a really good question, just because, again, we came from two different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So I could go a little bit of backstory on me and like what kind of how I grew up watching my parents and the relationship I had with my parents. So again, how she said, my parents were never divorced. They never got divorced. They were
Still together.
They're still together to this day. And it's been, I want to say, like 20 something plus years, I believe, maybe even 30 plus years. I don't really keep track of that entirely, but I know it's been a very, very long time. And just watching them, love each other, watching them, how they communicated with each other, and how they were always glue. They always stuck together no matter what. A problem arose, they figured it out together. Anything that happened within the family or outside, they came together and figured it out. There was times where they had a little arguments and stuff like that, but they never really showed it in front of us. That's one thing that I've always really noticed. My parents never showed them arguing in front of us because they knew that wasn't something that they wanted to instill in their children, especially being very young. We learn very quickly and easily. So yeah, my parents, I learned a lot about my parents' selflessness, love, respect, patience. There was a lot of things that I learned from them and built a very strong relationship with them growing up. So you can imagine how, my whole mindset in, a marriage and a relationship is compared to hers being, coming from a family of, divorce, which is so completely different. But yeah, I mean, my childhood, I mean, I can say it was really, really awesome growing up. I would
be able to be nice.
I mean, I had friends. I would play all the time. I'd be able to do stuff all the time. My parents were there. They're always supportive. They're always there for us kids. I'm a child of three.
Yeah, he's the baby.
So yeah, so it's definitely a whole different perspective that I brought to the table when we started dating, and now even more that we're married 2 years in. it's been very, very different, especially at the beginning of a relationship. It was very rocky and very difficult to kind of understand each other and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But she could talk about a little about how she grew up, which you're gonna see it's completely different.
Yeah. So with the question, it's what's the relationship we have with our parents?
Mhm.
So my relationship in the beginning, so my parents got divorced when I was about 10 and, they went their separate ways. We were bounced around from different households. And then my dad ended up leaving to a whole new country to go teach English when I was about 14. So I didn't really have like a real relationship with a father figure. And my mom was a single mom. She was busy all the time. And, she ended up, meeting her partner now, having another child. And, her life kind of went in that direction. And so we didn't have a good relationship either. We would fight a lot. I, for a long time would be that, teenager that hated her mom. And so growing up, I didn't actually have, a couple to look up to or just like parents in general to look up to see how a relationship is supposed to be. Like, I remember when I was little, I saw my mom and dad have a screaming match and like she scratched him and I just saw like that interaction. And for the longest time, I was like, okay, so in a relationship, like people argue, they yell at each other, and that's normal. And even later on in life, like my mom and her partner, they would have these verbal, like, I guess, verbally abusive arguments as well. And that's just what I grew up seeing. And so, with my relationships, it was like, all right, like people argue. They argue in front of their kids. They argue in public. And with him, like when he says his parents didn't do that, it was not shocking, but it was just different. I was like, oh, okay. So what I'm realizing is what I grew up is not normal. Like that's probably what's a more normal relationship. But because I didn't have that, like I didn't get to see that on a daily basis. I didn't get to see it at all. Even in my relationships, it really did affect me, and it affected how we communicated in the beginning because I was like, he's not screaming at me. Like, why is he not? Like, that means I need to, get him more angry so he can reciprocate and have that argument with me. And so for sure, that relationship that I did not have with my parents or even with them not having that relationship really affected me and how I viewed normal relationships, marriages, and even with them getting divorced, it was like, well, I guess divorce is okay as long as you both don't want to keep going, regardless if you have kids or not. So I think it's really important that kids have a great relationship with their parents because that's how they will treat their partner. That's what they're going to view as, what they want in life and what they want their future to look like. And versus with Heido, it's like he sees marriage as like sacred, as, we're going to figure it out. We're going to get this shit done. We're going to stay together. We're going to, have our conversations in private away from kids or anybody else. So that for us was very difficult in the beginning because he had like a calmness and I was just always like, I need arguments. I need fights. I need one of us to win. So for sure, relationships with your parents is important. So that's what we talk about for our future kids is like making sure we don't argue in front of them. We, show them what love is and we show them what a healthy and stable relationship is so that they don't have to go through what I went through, and whatever he went through as well.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a parent right now, like, I mean, we're not parents, so we can't really say a lot on like, parenting and how, how you parent your child and stuff. But what I do know is that it all starts at home. Like you have to make sure that you're showing your partner the love, you're showing your partner, you guys are growing together and, you guys are doing things that are positive in the household. So when your young kids are looking at you guys, they're learning from you, because when they're really young, they're like sponges, like they take all of that of what you teach them, and then later on take it on in life. That's the reason why she grew up so differently, and why she had also relationships that weren't so great before me, because of those traumas, because of those things, right? So it's like it starts at home. It really does. It just starts at home, and just being a good parent, to your kids, obviously, but also being a great partner, making sure that you guys
Yeah.
are doing what you need to do in the house to teach your kids to be able to also have that love, the patience, the compassion, the humbleness, anything that you want to instill in them. So
Yeah, it's so important, especially to have like a relationship with both of your parents as well. Because I know if I would have had a better relationship with my mom and or with my dad, I probably would have had, made better choices and had someone that I can actually talk to. It's like every little girl needs their father in their life. And I didn't have that for, throughout my whole teenage years. And I think I probably would have had more self-respect towards myself, more confidence, and not just allowed myself to do everything for that person, or to think I wasn't good enough or whatever it was. So having a relationship with your parents at a young age is the most crucial thing for someone. And so that's why for us, like, we take what we learned in our past and how we grew up, and we want to make sure that we don't do that for our future children. And if anyone's out there and they have kids, or even teenagers, just be there for them. Just make sure you listen, you guide them, because a lot of us who don't have that, we take that with us for our whole life. And unless someone actually is willing to help you heal from it, it's just something that is such a burden on your life that it's not really fair for them. So just try to be there as best as you can, be the best parent you can, because your kids, they deserve that. You bring them into this world, and they deserve everything.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like she said, like, we want to be the best parents we can possibly be for our children when we have children.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why we're instilling these, characteristics, or these traits within us now as a partner, as a couple. So then when we do have kids, like, we're able to show them, that love, that compassion,
Mm-hmm.
be there for them, and all of that too. So yeah, so it's just very important to build that as a couple, and especially if you're married and planning and or wanting to have kids as well too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we can move on to our next question that we had here on our list. It was, what values did your parents emphasize in relationships and marriage? So I talked a little bit on that first question about what my parents instilled in me, which was, love, compassion, being humble, patience, especially from my dad. My mom's patient as well too. Not that patient, but she is patient. But there was a lot of characteristics that I learned growing up from my parents, which I carry on with me now. But and also, coming from two different worlds, it's not to say it's a bad thing, because it really isn't, because it's a whole learning experience. Any relationship and any marriage is a whole learning experience. So I'm grateful that I was able to learn all these, traits and these things from my parents growing up, because I can now take that and teach her how to, be patient, how to love, how to do all those things, because she didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and then she and her growing up completely separate from her parents, like, obviously what kind of characteristics do you think she attained, right? She had to work very young. She had to, be a boss ass bitch, right? She had to make sure that she had to put food on the table for herself, right? So she instilled, that hard work and that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then me always being, like, I guess, handed everything to me, because my parents were always there, always supportive. I didn't really have that thought in my mind, like, oh, well, I have to work hard, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. And that was another thing that affected our relationship when we came together. But she already had those things in her, so she allowed me and helped me to grow in that aspect. So that's why I'm saying, like, sometimes even if you guys are pretty opposite, it's not like your relationship is going to be bad. It's just you guys have to learn and understand, well, I have these things I can teach her, and she has these things she can teach me, opposed to just giving up on a relationship. Unless your relationship is really bad, then,
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic we can discuss. But yeah, I mean, for me, for sure, like, obviously my childhood, it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't terrible as well. Like, something that I did get from my mom is independence, working hard because she was a single mom and she did her best. And so that was something that I was like, okay, well, we just keep going. We figure it out. We provide for ourselves and we stay strong. And unfortunately, I had a brick wall for a long time and I would just do whatever I could, or, a lot of the time too, I was just more like, I wanted someone to love me. And so I did everything I could to make them love me. And that wasn't probably always the best way to do that. But, the values I did get from my parents was, just working hard. Like my dad was also like the eldest of 9 and he never really had a childhood either. And I think that's probably what like they had to go through. Then having kids, like they didn't have that ability to heal and move forward from their traumas as well. And so thankfully, me finding a partner like this, I was able to, like he said, give him more experience as to living on your own, working hard, not having your parents around, not having the ability to go home. And that was something that I feel like you and I argued about so much, was like, well, at least you can go home. If we break up, you get to go home. But I didn't have a home to go to. The minute I was like 17, I moved out. I never went back home. There was no home for me to go back to. And that was also something that you and I really had to, talk through, because he's never been through it. He's never going to go through it. And so he living through my experiences really did help our relationship heal. And it really helped me see, the brighter side of being in a relationship, and then vice versa. Like I started being more patient with the values that he got. And so, throughout like our childhood, like sure, I didn't probably gain as many values as I would have loved to, but we still have some things, I still survived, which was great, and now I'm here with you, and we're able to take how we grew up and make it a better place for our future kids.
Yeah, and even though she didn't learn a lot from her parents, like now we teach each other what we've learned, her through her experiences growing up at a very young age, and then me through what I've learned from my parents, right? So it's best of both worlds, and we just teach each other what we know now, and we grow together and come together and keep building and then learning new things, so then when we do have children, again, we can instill those traits and those things into them, so then they can carry that on to, their relationships or their marriages. Yeah. So yeah, but we'll move on to our next question as well. And then if you guys too have any questions on anything, you guys can feel free to, comment on this Write video down below.
Text it.
You could DM us. We'll put our Instagrams down below as well too. You could DM us any questions, relationship, marriage questions, anything that has to do with, relationships or just our mindset, anything you're going through. Yeah, anything you feel like you need advice on. Like, obviously, we're not experts, but we're experts from our own experiences, right?
Yeah.
And, like, some of our experiences, might have gone through the same thing you're going through right now, and we can help you overcome whatever it is that you may have a question about. But we can move on to the next question. Do you believe a relationship should have defined roles, or should they be flexible? So
this is a good one.
Yeah, so defined roles, a lot of people, well, I guess it would be like, okay, well, she's the woman, I'm the man. It's like, okay, well, what roles does she have? What roles do I have? And a lot of people would be like, well, you can't be stereotypic, you can't stereotype, like just because she's a woman doesn't mean that, okay, she's just going to clean and wash the dishes and do the laundry and be in the home and take care of the home, which at some extent, sure. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, I have to also help her do that as well too. I have to also help her around the house. I also have to help her wash the dishes, do the laundry. There has to be a balance. between
Yeah.
these things?
I would say for us right now, we're pretty 50-50 on
Mm-hmm.
things. We try to make sure, like, if something needs to get done, let's just do it. Like, if the trash needs to be taken out and you're at work, like, I'm just going to do it. If the dishes need to be done and I'm at work, you do it. So I think when you're both working and, you don't have kids yet, I would say things should be a little more 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
If, for example, like you were the breadwinner and I was a stay at home, then I would pretty much do everything in the home because that would be like my job per se. And once we have
Mm-hmm.
children, then that would be like my role. I would be, the caregiver of the home and the kids, and you would go make the money, pay the bills. And I think every relationship should define their own roles on what works for them because there's no right or wrong answer. It's not like he's the only breadwinner. I can go be the breadwinner and he could stay home with the kids. Like it just is whatever works for you. And so for us, we just discuss if a task needs to get done, do it. Like, if I'm home on the weekends or whatever and I have the time, I'm going to do his laundry. Like, and if he has free time, he's going to vacuum and clean and do whatever he needs to do. So for us, we don't really have roles. Like, sure, in a traditional way, once we can, I would love to be a stay-at-home wife and I would love for him to, provide because that's my goal. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to cater to him. I want the house clean, but I don't have the ability to go to work and do that. And that's something that we've talked about, talked about. We don't pressure each other to fit in these roles. We don't pressure each other to have to be like, I have to be a good wife and I have to cook and clean after my 8 hours of work. And same thing with him. Like, he has to go work hard and still be like, still do, I don't know, still be the man or the leader or whatever. I mean, I still like not allow him to be these things, but I still encourage him because at the end of the day, for our relationship, I want him to be the leader because that to me is going to be something that'll benefit us in the future when we have kids because our children need to look up to someone to show them right or wrong. They need to have their father as the man, the leader, the strong, and then their mother as like the caring and the loving and the guiding as well. And so for us, if we define those roles now within each other, I think that's more beneficial than me being like, well, I'm an independent boss ass bitch and this fool ain't gonna tell me what to do. Like, no, there is, sure, you still need to have that self-worth and self-confidence, and he still needs to be able to be okay with me having my own life, but I'm okay with letting him be the dominant person in our relationship because that makes me feel safe and that makes me feel like I can be feminine and more of a woman than being independent. Like, I've done that for so many years. Like, I need him to just be the man and I just be the cute little wifey that I want to be the trophy wife. Like, I don't care to be independent anymore. I've been there, done that. It's exhausting. And so that's why for me, I think define your roles on what you think is best. Because at the end of the day, your relationship is with your partner. It's not with anyone else. It's not what society thinks. And there's no rule. There's no one answer. And if you want to do it all, then you do it all and let your partner not do anything. Like, that's on you. But just define those roles in the beginning and stick to it and help each other fit into those roles, or just help each other in doing everything that anyone should do in general, like in a household.
A man, obviously, a man should be the leader in anything, in a marriage, in a relationship. The man should always lead because you always need somebody who's strong. Obviously, a man, I'm not like, don't bash me on this, but of course, a man's a lot stronger than a woman in the sense of like, the body working, obviously just biologically, that's just how it is. So a man should be the leader in that aspect. But the woman has more of the nourishing and the brains and the way to, decision making and how to like fix things, right? And that's what complements the man, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a compliment within each other. So obviously there's certain roles and stuff like that play, but me being the leader as well, like I'm not going to let her just do everything at home, especially when we have kids or she's taking care of a baby. I'm also obviously also going to help her still do the dishes, still do the laundry, still do things when I can as well too. So, you know, even if she is a stay-at-home wife or a stay-at-home mom, you know, it's like I'm still going to help her do whatever she needs to do to keep the house, you know, going and clean.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, okay, well, I just come home from work and kick my feet up and
Yeah,
just,
sit
you
on
know,
the TV,
and just
drink
sit
a
on TV,
beer.
drink a beer and just be like, all right, whatever, you know, neglect her or not do anything, right? No, like I'm still going to come home. Maybe I'll take an hour or so to just chill, relax, and then be like, okay, like what do you need, honey? Like what do you need me to do? I can
Yeah,
help
like you still are in the relationship. You're not just checked out. You're not
Yeah.
just like a robot. Like I go to work 8 to 5, I come home, I want to eat dinner, and I just want to go to bed. Like I'm not going to acknowledge my children, my wife, nothing. Like you're actually still engaging in your family, which is, you know, what a lot of people I feel like don't do. Like whether it's, you know, the man or the woman, it's like they think, well, I just worked a 8-hour day and now you expect me to do this. And it's like, well, then why be in a marriage? Why have kids if that's your thought? Because, you know, your day doesn't just end when you get off work. Like you still have a partner that you have to acknowledge, and you know you still have to work on that relationship. You have your children that you still have to cater to and take care of, and you know, be that father figure for them or be that mother figure for them. So no matter what, you just have to remember like what your drive like what is your drive for? Like who are you doing these things for? Because if you just like think, oh, I worked an 8-hour day and I just want my wife to cook for me, like that's a whole different type of relationship and a whole different partner that you're going to have to look for if that's the life you want. But if you want someone to grow with and you want an actual partnership, then you have to make sure like you at least like agree on, okay, I just worked a long day. I need 30 minutes of just me time, an hour of me time. Like, please assist me in this so that I can be a good partner to you. And then that's it. It's like communicating, you know, like if I am a stay-at-home wife, I know that my husband just worked a long day. I need him to relax. I want him to be fed so that he can continue providing the necessary strengths that we need from him to continue being a leader and being that father to my children and being that husband to me. So it's just making sure, like I said, with these roles, we just have to communicate what we want to do, what we want to accomplish, and just making sure we check in with each other and just making sure, like, not one person has to do something. You both can do it. It's just whoever has the time and the patience and the ability to do them, just go ahead and do them. But roles can be changed throughout time.
Yeah, it's kind of said it more perfectly, and it doesn't matter what society deems it, right? Like she said, it's within yourselves. Doesn't matter what else is around you. It's like you guys are the ones that are married. You guys are the ones that are growing a partnership. So just establish that from the beginning on what you guys want, and then from there it's just gonna be easy. Communicate whenever things happen, and then you'll keep growing. Trust me. So that's kind of like the summary to this question. I believe we have maybe one more question. Okay, so this is going to be actually our last question. This question reads, are there any patterns from your childhood you want to break in your relationship? So that's a good question considering our backgrounds and stuff. But you could take it away on this one.
Yeah, so for me, for sure, something that I feel like we've kind of accomplished is arguing instead of having a conversation. That for me is something that I am so blessed to be able to say that we communicate, we don't argue. And I'm glad we're doing that now because I know once we have our kids, things change. You know, conversations get heated, we get more stressed out. And if we can practice right now, just being open and honest with each other, our children will never have to see us fight, never have to see us argue. And for me, that would be the most precious thing if my child never has to go through that, because that stays with you. It haunts you, like that negative feeling, especially seeing your parents arguing or seeing like your mother arguing with her partner, that's all you feel, and that's all you feel towards them. Like, I know if my, parents had better communication, I would think I would have a different thought on, them as individuals, or I'd have a different thought on my mother's partner, because all I see is negative. And if I can give that to my children, to not have negative feelings towards their mother, their father, that would make everything worth it. Because if I could break that one cycle of trauma, that would be just everything that I could have ever hoped for.
Yeah. I mean, on my side, I think that's probably the biggest one we've kind of really accomplished, because again, she grew up in tons of relationships, like arguing was what she thought love was. But that definitely, like, we don't even like argue anymore. We have conversations. That's what we do now. It's like, if there's something bothering us, we have a conversation. We just communicate to each other what the problem is, and then we're like, okay, how can we fix it? So like arguments aren't really like, we don't really have that anymore. Other things that I could think about, I can't really think about any other ones that.
Well, I think for you, what's something I've learned with your family is being able to talk to your parents about anything. Because I know with your family, sometimes you've been closed off, or your siblings don't feel like they actually can talk to your parents. So that might be something I would hope for our children, is that they can come to us for anything without feeling judged.
Yeah.
And not judging our children for not accomplishing things that we expected them to do.
Yeah, I guess that's actually a good one, because a lot of times we don't, like, at least I don't really go to my parents and talk about, the problems or the things that I'm going through and stuff, because we never really did that when we were growing up, or my parents never really allowed us to do that, because they were just like, well, you're strong, just move on. Like,
they were traditional, like Mexican
very traditional
parents.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it was. So we never really like would go up to them and tell them what our problems were. So I guess that'd be a pattern that I would love to break, is for our children to not be afraid of us, for them to come up to us and tell us, what they're going through. But again, that also starts with the parent. Yeah, it starts with telling them, be like, hey, like, I'm here for you. Like, anything you need, anything you want, or like you want to talk about anything, like, I'm here. Like, you don't have to go anywhere else. Like, you could talk to me, and I got you. So that's also like a good one that I would love to break. When we have our kids. Anything else that I don't think that.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. I know for sure we just strive for sure communication. That's like always our thing in every podcast. But we strive for love. We strive to make sure that we are good before we bring life into this world, because something that I've always said to myself is, I will never bring a child into this world until I am 100% ready that I can provide the best life for them that I didn't have. And if I can't guarantee that, I don't want to have children, because the way I grew up, it was so lonely. It was so sad. It was depressing and traumatic, and I don't want that for any of my kids. Like, I don't want them to feel unloved or unworthy, or like that they deserved it, or that they don't deserve love. And that's something so crucial in a child. Like, they need all those things. They don't know what to do in life. They don't have like the knowledge to survive. They need you. They need parents. They need guidance. And so for me, that's why we are striving to be the best people we can right now, because when we have our children, and I hope we do have them, I want to be the best I can for them. I don't want to just be what I grew up with and just, well, I did what I could and I did the best I could. Like, that's not okay for me. I have to do everything. I will not make them feel abandoned. I will not let them, move out of my house and never like to care for them ever again, move to another country just because my life sucks. Like, no, I'm going to be there for them from when they're born to, hopefully I go before they do. But that's why for me, this topic is is such a huge thing because like when you grow up without anybody, it sucks. And that's why I always tell him, like, I will not have your children until you prove to me you can take care of them and until I prove to myself that I can be the perfect mother that I know I can be, because it's not fair to them. It's not fair to bring kids into this world and not do everything you can for them.
Yeah. And I mean, there's never going to be a right time to have kids, but you can prepare yourself mentally, physically, and, financially in that aspect. But as far as like, you're never going to know how to be the best parent unless you work on yourself and become the best you first. That's kind of how it is. I mean, and I'm sure a lot of parents out there would disagree, but we also want to become the best for each other and for ourselves before we can actually, bring life into this world.
Yeah. That's how we break these bad cycles too with our family, like with my mom and dad, one was the oldest of 9, one was the youngest of 5, and neither one of them had a good relationship with their parents. Neither one of them had the love and care that they needed. And that is why, the unfortunate, situation with us. And so that's why I want to break that. It's like, I know I can work on myself and make sure I'm fine before we have our kids. And that's where we break that cycle. We break that negative, family, like that negative family situation where, we just continue doing this bad thing where we're like, all right, we have our kids and okay, we get divorced. All right, we leave our kids and let them figure it out. Like, no, like it stops with us.
Yeah. And I mean, growing up in 2 different worlds, it's 2 whole different perspectives, and it is 2 different outlooks of how we view life, but it's an opportunity to create a new one to break the cycle of, our generations before us, right?
Our negative trauma.
Our negative traumas and stuff like that. I mean, I don't have a lot, but she has a lot more. But
your experience comes from mine.
But exactly. But my experiences come from her, and hers come from mine. So it's just breaking that cycle, and just most importantly, just building something together and building yourself as well, because then that just allows you to be the best for your partner, and then to be the best for your children.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where we're going to close off the episode. If you guys really like this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe. Any questions, again, you guys may have, feel free to comment down below, or just DM us on Instagram. We'll put our Instagram handles down here. Feel free to ask us any questions you may have. And then also, if you are interested on jumping on the podcast, we would love to have you guys on here, whether you're single, whether you're, dating somebody, or, boyfriend or girlfriend, or even if you're married. It doesn't matter how old you are. Well, obviously 18 and over, but you can be as old as 65 if you're married, been married for 50 plus years with your wife. We would love to, have you on the show, because I feel like everybody out there has a story. Everybody out there has experiences and things they've gone through in life that can teach other people, how to learn from your own experiences. So if you're interested, feel free to also DM us and let us know. But we're going to close this episode off, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Peace, guys.